All right, everybody. Hello. Welcome into Thru Da Garden.
Hey,
Tommy,
hey.
Jordan, Alex. Is it Alexander? Or is it just Alex?
Technically, it's Alexander, but I rarely go
Okay.
by that. Though,
Oh no, I
although
was I was just
You
curious.
know,
I
I was
do
just
like to go
curious.
by Alexander now on some of my social platforms because I on a more professional platform like LinkedIn and that stuff, even though I don't really use it. But
Yeah.
yeah, on this here though, being called Alexander on either Twitter or this show or my other show or with my friends, not something that happens very often. So
Yeah. I
what?
I feel the same way with Thomas. Like professionally everything is Thomas, but if you're around me, you usually just stick with the Tommy.
Well, you know what's funny? A little
I
bit
will
like
call you Thomas though if I think you have a hot that said.
All right. Yeah. I'll match.
a little bit behind the fourth wall. Whenever Alex submits something in for Cubby's crib, it comes across as Alexander. So like each time I look at it, I'm like, who the hell is Alexander? And then like I see the last name, I'm like, oh, it's Alex. And then like sometimes I post a
Yeah,
rundown.
everything I used to have. Yeah, I know. It is
Yeah,
kind of weird, isn't it? Because everything I used to have was Alex. And then, so, I mean, I know this sounds kind of weird, but long story short is my original Facebook account got hacked and it started
right.
posting a lot of shit. And I
I
don't,
was looking forward to
I
those
just thought,
Taylor Swift tickets.
oh, I'm sorry. Sorry to disappoint you. The day those were posted, I got maybe 15 phone calls from people asking me, they're like, "Are you really selling Taylor Swift tickets?" And every time I'm like, "No, I'm not. Please report it. That's my old account." But I kind of wanted to go under the Alexander alias for a while just because I didn't know what the hell was going on with
Yeah.
the hacking. So that's just what
Yeah.
it is now. So, Jordan, I'm sorry I confused you.
Well,
No worries.
it's either going to be forever or it's going to go down in flames.
Yeah.
Anywho, big night of sports balls to talk about,
Yeah.
but Jordan, the floor is yours.
Yeah, how about this? So, exciting news. There will be a baby girl Campbell addition to the family next January. My wife and I are super
Woo!
stoked about that. We do have a name locked down. We're not going to give the name out because we're one of those people want to keep the name sacred. Don't want anyone to steal it. But yeah, we're super stoked. It's going to be interesting because the office that I'm sitting in now is going to turn into the baby's room. So maybe next winter when we're doing the show, you guys will get a live look into my kitchen.
Well, oh yeah, there you go. Well,
Hey, new
congratulations to the
perspective.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're stoked.
congratulations.
Big congrats.
We're
Thank
super
you.
excited to meet little baby Caleb Williams Campbell. That's gonna be great. So yeah,
Well, after the past first day, if it was a boy, I was going to name it Miles Campbell after Miles Mastroboni because
mm,
one of
yeah,
the
Of
unsung heroes of
course.
the past
Of
week.
course.
yeah. Geez, yeah. Well, the Cubs are on a tear. I think yelling at them has worked. They've won 4 of the last 5, and 2 of those were against the Angels, yes, but one of those was against the Phillies, and one of those was against the Orioles, and they seem to be beating the Orioles as we speak right now. The game may be in the closing stages by the time we end this podcast, so we'll kind of be glimpsing over at that the whole time. But yeah, that's where we are with the Cubs. Is we yelled at them, and they stunk going into 4th of July. But last weekend, maybe a slumping Angels team comes in and something clicks. Ian Happ's been on a tear. Cody Bellinger's average is climbing back up. Christopher Morel hit a home run tonight. So yeah, I think we should talk about the state of the Cubs right now, where we are.
Yeah. Um, I think we should begin by if you're one of those Cubs fans that are holding up 2023 as proof that this version of the Cubs team can turn their season around. I think you have to remember that when all was said and done with the 2023 season, it was a failure because despite the turnaround that team had, they entered September with a 95+% chance of making the postseason, and they ultimately finished a game short of missing the postseason. So if you're looking at this Cubs team, trying to make comparisons to last year, you're already setting yourself up to be disappointed because last year's team was a disappointment when all was said and done.
Well, I think there's one key element here to this, which makes this so difficult, is you can look at the number of games back in the wild card. You're like, oh, that's not a lot. That's not a lot at all. But here's the thing: you got what, five and a lot of those teams, if not pretty much all of them, I think except the Diamondbacks, they either clinch the tiebreaker against you or they currently hold a tiebreaker against you. So when you're beating, because remember, this isn't the day of the one game playoff, the tie, this is NFL rules now. So if they hold the season tiebreaker against you, well, guess what? You can tie with them. It doesn't matter. So that makes the hill even more difficult to climb because you got to surpass all those teams and you can't just tie. You have to actually surpass them. And sure, you can look at a couple teams in that race where you say, okay, this team might hit a cold stretch. Maybe this team hits a hot stretch where, you can predict, you don't actually know, but if there's one or two teams ahead of you, that's different, but it's more than that. So that's what makes this so difficult. That's what makes this so unbelievably difficult because you're now in a position where you have to play pretty much flawless ball the rest of the year.
Yeah, and
Yep.
I just keep going back to the stretch of 20 something games that they had where they were playing teams sub 500 and they won one of those series.
That was a chance.
And that was their chance that was their chance and they blew it. So now you got to face much harder teams for the rest of the year, starting in Baltimore. And it just makes perfect sense that the Cubs are doing great in Baltimore because that's just how it goes. We beat up on good teams and we can't beat who we're supposed to. So I don't know.
You think of this too. They're one good swing away, the Orioles, from changing everything. That's a good team.
Sure.
That's also the thing.
Yeah. No, and honestly, I don't think they're focused on 3 games in July against the Chicago Cubs. I really don't. They're a team they're at the top of the American League, right there with the Guardians, and they got aspirations of a World Series, and the Cubs have aspirations of hanging on for dear life to their season. So they're in 2 different phases. These Orioles guys are looking for the All-Star break. A couple of them are in their first. No, they're all right.
Not quite. Not quite.
Yeah.
Not quite. I thought off the
Deep
bat,
fly
I was
ball,
like,
yeah.
oh.
But yeah,
off the bat, I thought so too.
Yeah. So the Cubs, they're eyeing the All-Star break to kind of retool, refocus, and re-energize, and they need to go into the All-Star break with positive vibes. The Orioles, on the other hand, have nothing to play for the rest of the week because a lot of them are going to the All-Star game. Some of them their first All-Star game. Gunnar Henderson, my MVP pick for the American League before the season started, he's competing in the home run derby. They are looking ahead of the Chicago Cubs, and they don't care if they're going to take 2 of 3 or lose 2 of 3 to the Chicago Cubs or get swept by the Chicago Cubs. They just don't care because they're that far ahead. They're that far locked into a playoff spot that it doesn't matter. The Chicago Cubs are playing for their lives for the rest of the season. So it wouldn't surprise me if they end up taking 2 or 3 in Baltimore. It wouldn't surprise me if at least 2, maybe 3 of the games fall their way in St. Louis because in St. Louis is not where the Orioles are by any means, but it just seems like the Cubs have to care and other teams don't super have to care when they play the Chicago Cubs.
That Cardinals series, though, that's big.
It's big. It's big for us. It's big for us.
No, it's also big for St. Louis. I mean, St. Louis is right there on the wild card.
It is.
For the exact points that Alex just laid out is here you have the Cubs trying to leapfrog all these teams. They don't hold the tiebreakers. If you're a team like St. Louis, you're probably not catching Milwaukee in the division. You do want to solidify yourself as one of the wild card teams in the National League. So you want to beat the Cubs. You want to take 3 out of 4 from the Cubs.
Yeah, I shouldn't have made it seem like the Cardinals don't care about the Cubs series.
Right.
My main point is the Cubs care super more, I guess is where I'm at.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it circles back to what happened last year, right? The Cubs were playing similar games where like the Cubs had the win. They're playing teams that didn't necessarily have the same sense of urgency. But then what happened in September when the Cubs needed to have that sense of urgency, they were on knee. They had nothing left and they just stumbled to the finish. And for as much as we want to believe in the team winning 4 of their last 5 games, it's just a broken team. And there has to be change. I'm sure we're going to get into what's going to happen at the deadline. One thing I do think they can't do is stand pat.
All right. Well, yeah, let's talk about it because I think we're all in different places on this. I am a believer in standing pat. I think Jordan, you're a believer in the selling. Alex, I'm not super sure where you are on it.
It's
I
it's an interesting spot.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't say I'm fully committed to them selling.
Okay.
Like for instance, I don't think they should sell Nico. I don't think they should sell Ian Happ. Cody, you could move. What I'm more so interested in is I'm not necessarily buying for this season, but buying for future seasons. And there's multiple ways you can do that. You can look at, if you want a blueprint, you can look at what the Cubs did in the offseason, where they traded a double-A pitcher in Jackson Ferris for Michael Busch. And that we're seeing the best possible outcome of that right now as Michael Busch is rapidly ascending toward being one of the best hitters in the National League. So I think if you're the Cubs, you're looking for either young Major League Baseball players that are under team control and can contribute in an expanded role on your team, or you're looking for your big addition at the deadline for next season. Okay. What I mean by that is there's increased speculation that the Blue Jays might be selling. If that's the case, maybe you do dive into your prospect depth and you get Vladdy Jr. not for this season, but he's going to be your impact bat for next season.
Okay, that's a hot take because I was kind of thinking that I knew the Blue Jays did outline that they would probably be selling a couple of their pitching pieces and potentially their catcher in Danny Jansen, but I thought that the rumors of Vladdy and Bo Bichetti, and I thought those were dead. So maybe they're not dead, or is that something that you just kind of want?
No, Morosi, I think it was Morosi or Heyman tweeted, or it was Heyman on Bleacher Report Live today, said that there's been renewed not optimism, but renewed chances that one of Bo Bichette or Vladdy could get moved.
Okay. So I would be into really either of those, really, because Bo, he could play some third base, yeah. And Vladdy can play third or first, and Michael Busch can move over to third, maybe. I think everybody sees kind of where I'm going with this is I think that at least defensively, I'm ready to call the Christopher Morel experience done. And I know he homered tonight, but I can't get over the fact that we're halfway through July now. We're approaching the All-Star break, and he is still batting under 200. And I don't understand the praise yet. I just don't get it.
So, Tommy, what
I mean, you look at the.
I was going to say, Tommy, what if
I
told you when 2020, the Cubs had a hitter
I know what
hitting
you're gonna
under
say.
200 with 11 home runs, and now we're kicking ourselves that they gave up on him.
Sure, yeah, I get that, and I understand those points, but I don't see the same value in the same players
for sure.
And I mean, defensively, Kyle Schwarber came up as a catcher, and then he ended up playing left field, so it's weird.
And you could argue he should be a DH.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. But the thing is, like, I'm trying to separate my feelings of the past with moving forward to the future. And,
no, for sure.
And also, when that was all happening was when we gave up Kyle Schwarber, we were also giving up Anthony Rizzo, Chris Bryant, and Javi Baez within the same year. This year, let's say we're at the point where we're giving up a Christopher Morel. If Christopher Morel leaves Chicago and does wonderful things somewhere else, God bless. But that's where I'm at is if we do that, then I expect the Chicago Cubs to be winning and me not super caring because what we have is good. And I think when we gave up Kyle Schwarber, we were like, okay, we're building something great here. And Jed Hoyer fumbled that completely because we are now 3 years removed from that situation. We sold in 2021. We sold in 2022. We kind of bought last year. And now we're talking about selling again, potentially in 2024. That's 3 out of the 4 years where realistically we were told we were retooling and it wasn't a rebuild. And we've retooled into nothing. So if we were to not have Christopher Morel on this team, I would expect that we are doing so well that I don't super care that Christopher Morel is doing good somewhere else.
Well, I mean, if you're going to do that kind of move, the thing is that as long as you have something to replace it with, because, like, listen, this is all just hypothetical. I'm not saying this is happening at all, but if you replaced Christopher Morel with like a Bo Bichette playing third, well, guess what? You may have gotten rid of some value, but you have value where you replaced it. I mean, think about it.
Mhm.
When we
Exactly.
traded away Starlin Castro to make room for Ben Zobrist, we didn't think twice about Starlin Castro because we replaced his spot with Ben Zobrist. We
Correct.
made that trade to bring in that guy, and
Correct.
10 times out of 10, I would do the same thing. And the
Yeah.
way
And
that played out, absolutely.
yeah. And we lost Kyle Schwarber for absolutely nothing. We just
Yeah.
let him walk.
Right. We let
We're
him go.
talking about a potential we at least get something back for Christopher Morel. And we're talking about we're really giving the front office more of a benefit of the doubt than they deserve by saying that we trust them to go get something of equal or better value than Christopher Morel. Potentially
Well, that's the thing.
for
Do
the
you want this front office doing this? You know, if
Well,
you're going to do
I don't
that
know.
approach,
I don't know, but I don't have a choice.
here's something I wrote about. I'm tired. There's plenty of valid reasons to criticize this front office for when it comes to how they constructed this team. One thing that you kind of can't find ammunition on with the front office is when it comes to their ability to make trade, or when it comes to the value they get in trades. They've 9 times out of 10 usually have good trades. If you're looking at Jose Quas and Nelson Velasquez, sure, hand up. I'll give you that one. But if you're asking me 12 months after the fact, do I regret the DJ Horsverheimer Candelario trade? No, because at the time, that's an exact trade that the Cubs should made. And I'm not sweating over DJ Hors. I think he was already optioned down. So you prospect huggers that were blasting Hoyer a couple weeks ago for giving up DJ Hors, you lost ammunition. I'm not worried with
yeah,
Hoyle.
that didn't bother me either.
Yeah, I'm not worried with Hoyle when it comes to trades. I'm fine with him making trades. This isn't a situation like last season where you had Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams making moves when you know they were getting fired, and they usually get fleeced. Although I did like what the Sox did last year. Hoyle's issue is not when it comes to trades. He's going to find, if there is a trade to be made, he's going to find value. Where Hoyle's issue comes into play, and the much larger question that has to be asked in the offseason is, how are you going to allocate the money that you have available? Because we've seen with the bullpen, we've seen with the bottom end of this roster, we've seen with the lack of impact, impact velocity pitching and impact power hitting, that Hoyer doesn't spend money in the right places. But when it comes to trades, I'm not too worried about that.
No, I get what you're saying exactly. I mean, because even when you look at the prospect trades, when we sold off the core, obviously such crapshoots. They're always such crapshoots. But you got Alexander Canario, Caleb Killian for Chris Bryant. You got PCA for Javier Baez. You got Kevin Alcantara for Anthony Rizzo. So, you say, okay, you were at least able to reasonably restock your farm a bit with those types of trades. Obviously, the Michael Busch trade is looking like a great trade so far. But yeah, I mean, it's what Jed Hoyer seems to trust in to fill the holes, to fill the gaps. And I mean, look at some of the signings. You signed Trey Mancini and Eric Hosmer and Tucker Barnhart. It's the stuff like that where you saw a more robust market to get a solution for catcher and you kind of went those roads. It's just like, yeah, that's where a lot of the missing comes in for me.
I think he's also overvaluing what he has in the farm system and what he has on the team as well. And I think a perfect example of that was this past spring, winter, whenever we were talking to the Rays about potential move for Tyler Glasnow. And there was rumors that Christopher Morel was part of that. And then Tampa walked out because they just valued Christopher Morel too high. Do you buy stock do you buy stock in him maybe overvaluing what he has?
I think so.
Yeah, I buy stock in the Cubs' interpretation of their farm system doesn't match the the rest of Major League Baseball, or the Cubs' interpretation of some of their players at the Major League level probably doesn't match what's out there across Major League. So along those lines, yeah, I do agree. I don't think though that is necessarily a hindrance to the ability to make a trade, because I think that mentality probably existed last offseason, and we still saw Hoyle find a way to get Michael Busch here by giving up Jackson Ferris. So yes and no is essentially what I'm saying. I do believe that Hoyle does have an issue when it comes to internal scouting of the Cubs at both the major league and minor league level, but I don't think that concern should alleviate to this fear of the moves he either will or won't make at the deadline.
All right. Yeah, I mean, you're intriguing me by saying you would make a move for next year. You're intriguing me. So what do you think if we were to go after a Vladdy or a Bo, what do you think that return would be?
Well, I mean, whether it's going to be Vladdy or Bo, you're pretty much talking about at the top of your prospect ranking, right? It's probably not going to be Cade Horton. Honestly, if I'm the Cubs and say PCA is a player that the Blue Jays value more so than Alcantara and old Casey, I probably float PCA's name out there just to see if there's any interest. If not, then you could have one of the three outfield prospects that you have. I think a sleeper prospect to get moved, if we do look at the Cubs buying for next year, is James Triantos. Triantos has essentially having a breakout season at AA this season, but here's the thing: it's kind of like what we've been talking about with Matt Shaw. Is once Matt Shaw reaches a major league level, where he's going to play. Right now, the middle infield spots are locked up. Whether they move Nico at the deadline, potentially talk about it in the offseason, maybe. But if they're not going to move Nico, no one's taking Dansby's contract. One of Matt Shaw and Triantos are probably going to be available in trade talks, and my money is on Triantos just because of the Cubs pegging Matt Shaw likely for third base.
I think the Cubs are going to give Christopher Morel the rest of 2023 to figure it out, especially if they're trying to build a team for next year. But I mean, beyond this year, if we get to August and we get to September and this guy is still in the 100s and in the 20-25 home run range, it's that, like, I get the home runs are great, but the average isn't there for me. Before you hit home runs, you got to learn how to hit. And he's not hitting. And I'm looking at Matt Shaw just absolutely raking in the minors. He's not only hitting home runs, he's getting on base and he's doing things and stuff. Same with James, really. So I want to see something out of third base. I want to see some production, and I want to see the guy that doesn't have to, whenever there's an easy ground ball to third base, I don't want to be like, just don't screw this up. Because even Michael Busch is saving his butt on some of these throws, and it's just... I'm not trying to harp on Christopher Morel. And I know that there's a lot of Christopher Morel stands out there that are super mad at me. Like I got rocked on Twitter this past week because of some of the tweets that I had. But I stand by every single one of them because
well, listen, I mean, here's the thing. The third base position is a premier position in baseball. It's a position where contending teams really can't afford to have below average production. The cornerstones of your franchise are often at the corner infield spots. I mean, Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, Derek Lee, Ramos Ramirez. I mean, it's such a crucial position that it needs to be top tier production, basically.
Yeah,
it does. Out of a jam.
Sure did.
So, yeah, I'm looking at the top third baseman. What do you want to do it by average? You want to do it by home runs? What do you want to do?
OPS? Can we do OPS?
Yeah, let's do OPS.
I can do OPS. OPS, the top ones. Rafael Devers.
OPS is probably the best.
Yeah. Rafael Devers, third base for Boston, contender. Jose Ramirez, Cleveland, contender. Josh Smith, Texas, not super a contender, but still very good. Jordan Westberg, Baltimore, best in the league. I'm going down the list here. Alec Boehm, contender. Ryan McMahon, God bless him. Yeah, and I'm still going down. Christopher Morel is down at 14th in OPS with 682.
Yeah, no, I mean all valid points, and I think it goes back to one of the fears with Hoyle, separate of the trade deadline, is how does he internally value or scout the Cubs versus Major League Baseball? Because
Yeah.
like you pointed out, there was a disconnect between the Cubs and Tampa Bay when it came to Christopher Morel. And at the same time, prior to the Michael Busch trade, the Cubs didn't want to give up Morel to the Mets for Pete Alonso. So I think in terms of Morel trade, one thing from a playing third base position, I do think the Cubs are just about out on Christopher Morel. If you read between the lines of what Craig Counsell says on his interviews on the Scores Afternoon show, it sounds like they're just about done with Morel being the everyday playing third baseman. I don't think they're out on his offensive potential. I think that would be a pretty aggressive
I don't think
switch.
so either.
Yeah, I think that would be a pretty aggressive switch from where they were at the beginning of the season. Having said that, maybe not at the deadline, but maybe that is a move you're talking about in the offseason where
Include him in a
not
package or
necessarily-
something.
yeah, I was about to say, you're not necessarily trading for a prospect for a player. You're not necessarily trading a player for a prospect. You're essentially taking a player that you no longer have you no longer have value that you once did, and you're moving him to another team for a player in a similar position.
Well, look at Michael Busch. I mean, Michael Busch had already
Yeah.
technically played in the big leagues with the Dodgers spot for him. Obviously, we
Yeah.
traded a prospect to get him, so you didn't trade a Christopher Morel type guy, but you could potentially make a move similar to that. And I've said it before that in the off season, as much as I liked Christopher Morel, I didn't think he was untouchable if there was the potential to get a big name in here. You don't just trade him just to trade him, obviously, this past
Right.
off season, but the opportunity to get something big, like obviously they weren't going to be in on the whole Juan Soto thing. But if you would have told me that Christopher Morel was a key throw-in to get Juan Soto, then yes, I absolutely do it. If you would have said the same thing about Vlad Jr. or Bo Bichette or something like that, then yes. So I feel like you just have to be open-minded on all avenues, because there are guys in organizations where you untouchable, and I just don't think that Morel, much as I like him, as much as I like his power, he's not untouchable. He's just not at this point. If his OPS was in the 800s, it'd be a different story.
Okay, last question, then we can move on here. What is a Christopher Morel type player? Who out there is a Christopher Morel type player?
I don't have like a current player like comp for you in terms of past player comps. I would probably say like a Dan Ugla. Doesn't really give you much defense, doesn't really give you contact, but has a ton of power. And if Dan Ugla is the comp for Christopher Morel, then yeah, you absolutely move him in one of those trades that Alex was talking about, because a Dan Ugla type is not a difference maker when it comes to contending at the major league level.
Yeah. All right.
I have another name in mind. Let me just check the stats and make sure I'm accurate, because this is a older player. This is from let's see. Okay, yeah, I think I found it. Rob Deere. If anybody knows Rob Deere, played back in the 80s and the 90s. He's a career 220 hitter, but he's got 230 career home runs in 1,155 games. So
yeah, that's a good one.
I guess I'll go Rob Deere.
All right.
No, that's a good one. I like that one.
I didn't think we'd be talking about Rob Deere on this show, but hey,
that's probably a good time to segue away from the Chicago Cubs. Real quick on the Chicago White Sox front, Garrett Crochet. He has publicly said he wants to be extended. They're probably going to get offers for him on the trade market. What do I was talking to a Sox fan today, and he was telling me that I understand that the White Sox are probably nowhere near contention in the next couple years or so, but if you get a chance to extend Garrett Crochet, you have to. Because if he wants to come here, you got to let him come here and stay here, because there's not a lot of free agents that are going to want to come to Chicago at this point. So what do you do if you're the White Sox? Do you capitalize on his value, or do you sign him long term to see if you can get him to stay?
I think if you're the
I got a question.
Okay.
What do other teams see? Because remember, been publicly made clear that he's going to be on an innings limit, right? From the White Sox?
I think so.
So if you're trying to trade for him, to make a run here, obviously talent-wise, what he's doing on the mound has got all the value in the world. But what's the stamina going to be? How far in the season is he going to go? Does that raise a lot of questions? And if so, does that make it worth it to trade him or not? Or does it make it more worth it to try to further develop him as an asset within your own organization?
Real quick, Bellinger just got hit on his left hand.
Yeah, I saw that.
He seems to be laughing, but
that looks painful.
Yeah, it's already swollen.
Council came out of the Council's out of the dugout.
Yeah, it's already swollen.
Yeah. One thing
I think he's walking to the dugout. Or is he walking to first?
He's coming out.
Great podcasting here. Oh, no, he's staying in.
No, he's staying in.
All right. Sorry.
He was walking towards for a second there, but he's okay.
Yeah.
Right on the knuckles.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
With Garrett Crochet, you can just about rule out an extension. He's represented by Scott Boras. So it's Chris Bryant all over again, right? Because prior to the relationship between the Cubs and Bryant breaking down, he said, yeah, I would sign an extension with the Cubs. Did he? No. He's now lost in Colorado. So with Garrett Crochet, if I felt confident in one of Colson Montgomery or even Edgar Quiro coming up soon and being a difference maker, I would say the Sox should probably keep him. But here's the thing. The Sox have a ton of great pitching prospects. They don't have that position player prospect that's that guy. And as kind of bittersweet as it is, I think they probably get that position player prospect by moving Crochet. Because what an acquiring team has to realize is, sure, he might be on an innings limit this season. There's ways you can kind of extend his life this season, whether it's pushing him back a couple of days, a 6-man rotation, but you're also getting him for multiple seasons after this season. If I'm the White Sox, just because of the other pitching prospects I have and the need to get a blue chip position player prospect, I'm moving Crochet.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they should move anybody and everybody that they can, because they are so far from contention that you just gotta stockpile and restart, because they're not going to get anybody to come in and save the day anytime soon. They're going to have to build from within, prove that they have a good team, and then they'll get guys to come in thereafter. So I'm totally with you.
Well, that's what's such a tortured life to be a White Sox fan, because here's the thing. We've seen this blueprint before. We've seen the White Sox go out there, get the top prospects in baseball, get on the verge of contending, and then what you just said, and then they would get guys to push them over the top. They didn't do that last time, and one of the reasons they didn't do that is because of their owner. But we don't have to rehash that conversation. We've had plenty of anti-Jerry Reinsdorf conversations on the spot.
We have.
But no, and like you said, Tommy, if I'm the White Sox, I'm something anyone and everyone.
Definitely, yeah. All right, well, how's about we talk about some Chicago Bears football?
Yeah. Fun fact about that, because being an editor of a NFL team website from just about mid-May to mid-July is torture. because it's pretty much a black period in the NFL. You're pretty much just spending nonstop off-season ranking and position player rankings. But what I will say is the past 2 weeks, I'm not sure if you guys watched, the Giants version of Hard Knocks has been out, and there's been some Bears adjacent tidbits coming from it. Last week we had the Giants front office talking about DeAndre Swift and how they value DeAndre Swift as a playmaker out of the backfield. They actually compared him to Saquon, but funny enough, they didn't think DeAndre Swift was leaving Philadelphia, let alone for the Bears to jump in and sign
They
him.
were so clear about it too. They were like,
Right.
he loves Philly. That's his home. He's not leaving. Yeah, I caught up. I caught up on Hard Knocks this afternoon, so I'm with
awesome. Yeah, and then what was cool about last night's episode is we kind of got a behind the scenes look at how a team operates at the NFL scouting combine, and it was really cool because we got an inside look into both Odunze's interview with the Giants front office and Caleb Williams. Starting with Odunze, listening to him just answer the question about what do you do best, and him having the answer from beginning to finish and talking about, oh, well, I do this. I'm a good blocker. I can play on the outside. I can play on the inside. Was just further proof that, holy cow.
Yeah.
The Bears actually got this guy.
I can't believe that I cannot believe, especially after the 2 meetings. Alex, I don't know. Did you watch Hard Knocks at all?
So I've seen the bits and pieces of
Okay.
it. I haven't watched the whole thing yet, but I've seen the bits you're talking about.
Okay.
People have posted clips, and
Yeah.
I need to get a chance to actually watch through it. But
Yeah.
I've seen some
So-
clips, and it really it's so cool because it shows how complicated football is.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah, it is so
How
complicated.
complicated it
but
is.
specifically for the Odunze stuff, I cannot believe that after those 2 meetings, they picked Neighbors and not Odunze. Like, Odunze was head and shoulders above, and he was ridiculous during the combine.
Yeah.
He solidified himself as the best wide receiver. Like, with all due respect to Marvin Harrison Jr., Odunze showed out and was ready to go, answered everything, balled out during the combine, and he fell to 9 to the Chicago Bears. And the Bears were smart, and they were like, holy crap, and they took him. Like,
Didn't even hesitate.
It's just
Didn't
like,
overthink.
Exactly.
it is
Right.
insane watching the Giants and how they kind of fumbled the Saquon thing, and then how they fumbled just the combine and the preparation where they had Odunze in their lap and they said no thank you. I was sitting there and I was watching it, and I had 2 thoughts. My first thought was, couldn't be me. I'm a Bears fan. I'm smart now. And my second thought was watching how complex they are and showing all the different things that the Giants GM and everybody was doing and all their preparation, like the scouting and stuff. I want Hard Knocks MLB Chicago Cubs. I want to know. I want Tom to open his stupid mouth, and I want to hear what he has to say. And I want to see Jed Hoyer at work. But they would never do it because there's no salary cap. So, anyways, those were my 2 thoughts. But yeah, this is my first Hard Knocks experience as well. I had never watched Hard Knocks before, and I'm loving it. This is great, and it just has me so excited for the Bears.
Yeah, I had my doubts about, like, I feel like going into the Giants one, I'm like, I'm probably not going to show much. It's going to be watered down. No team really wants to put all their business out there, but Joe Sheen is just out there just telling his business.
He's out there, man.
To the whole world.
Out there.
What I will say was also really cool because we've heard for years about like quarterback interview process at the scouting combine. How like at the beginning of the meeting, the quarterbacks would be given a play, and then at some point during the interview, a coach would be like, "Hey, real quick, what was that play I gave you?" We saw that firsthand with Jaden Daniels, with Caleb Williams, with JJ McCarthy.
Yeah.
It was so cool to where they would open, they would talk about a play, and then I think it was JJ. They were talking about his family, talking about stuff he does outside football, and then Dayball was like, "Hey, really quick, what was that play I gave you?"
Yeah.
And it's just so cool to see that because we're getting an inside look at like how a quarterback's mind is supposed to work. And yeah,
I could never be a quarterback in the NFL.
Absolutely.
Holy
not.
crap.
Do you know
when
how
they were
big
talking
those
about all the
playbooks are?
Yeah, when they were talking about the P's and the F's and switch the F to an X and stuff, I was like, what the hell is going on here? Like, this is just, yeah. So, yeah, I have a newfound respect for quarterbacks in the NFL. Just watching that was just wild. And I mean, it just has me so stoked for the Bears.
That's why some of the smartest people on any given NFL team is the backup quarterback, because they might not have the arm talent that a starting quarterback will have, but they got to know the system inside and out.
Yeah,
so
that's why Chase Daniel got that bag.
Yes. Chase Daniel is probably one of the smartest people you could ever talk to about football. Like,
I
Chase
wanted him
Daniel
for offensive coordinator.
Make a living. Seriously, honestly, I would love to pick his brain just to hear him talk about quarterback play and how it all works, because he'd be able to break it down for you like a coach could. I said, he didn't have quite the arm talent as a starting quarterback, but boy, he had the brains. And that's why the backup quarterback, I think, is the most interesting position in the NFL, because there's some of the smartest people.
Yeah, Chase Daniel, open invitation to the pod.
Anytime. I think
no kidding.
He's starting a pod with Diana Rossini.
Yeah. Congrats to them with The Athletic. I'm very intrigued by that one. I haven't listened to it yet. I'm not even sure if it's come out yet. I know that they've been shopping it around, but I always have loved Diana Rossini and her reporting on ESPN. When she came to The Athletic, oops, I'm doing the thing again. When she came to The Athletic, I immediately saved her as a favorite one, and I get the alerts anytime she puts something out. And then Chase Daniel, even when he was with Chicago, always the smartest guy in the room. And you think of the head coaches that he's gotten to work with, the quarterbacks he's gotten to work with and help develop, and just the way that he talks about football and knows football, it's just one of the most respected guy. And same with Dan Orlovsky, when he's on ESPN doing the NFL Live stuff, I've always thought that he's been a wonderful offensive mind, because he wasn't the best on the field quarterback, but he certainly knows exactly what he's talking about at all times. So, it's really opening my eyes, how much it takes to run a football team, and it does kind of want me. I do think I warrant some grace to the Chicago Bears over the years, because I don't understand. But now that I do understand, I may be more ruthless than ever, quite honestly. So we'll see.
I think it makes us more appreciative of Ryan Poles, because honestly, I think if there was an off-season edition of Hard Knocks following the Bears of yesteryear, I think there would very much be confirmation bias of them being the laughing stocks of the NFL.
Yeah.
Which I'm kind of kicking myself, because as much as I am excited about the Bears being on the training camp edition of Hard Knocks, I would have loved to see the Bears be on the off season of Hard Knocks. And I know the Bears give us their YouTube version of it, but just get more into the weeds of when they made the official decision to trade Justin. What did that conversation look like?
Yeah. You know what I would love to see is I would love it to be the Chicago Bears, but any team, I would love to see off season to mid season Hard Knocks. One full a full season. Preparation, training camp, and then the first half of the season. I would love to see that, but I don't know.
Do you think the NFLPA would go for that? Because if you're doing this stuff in games in between week, I just think that might be too much of a distraction. So I don't know. It would be cool for us to see, but I don't know if we'd ever actually see it.
If anything, there's got to be somebody that a Peyton Manning-esque to put together a TV show and replicate it, kind of like the Draft Day movie, kind of replicate a TV show of a team, kind of like that.
Right.
So, which is possible, because Peyton Manning is really taken this whole film thing and running with his production team and stuff.
And he's excellent with it.
So if he ever did something like that, which Peyton Manning, free idea right here. If he did that, I'd be all in. And
of course he's listening, because we know he listens to this show.
Wouldn't it be fun if he let us be the bonehead local radio guys in the show?
That'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Or something to think about.
One of the if he does a Monday Night Football watch along, he just has us ad for one of the one of the quarters.
Yeah. Anywho, so a couple more Bears Nuggets really quick, and wow, our time is going super fast tonight. So I have a few more things that I want to talk about, but really
I got
quick,
nothing but
uh,
time.
Jordan and Alex, and listener, are we at all concerned about Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze not signing their rookie deals yet? Like, does anybody super
No.
care at this
Not yet.
point? Because I don't.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I won't care
Not yet.
until
Not yet.
August 1st. That's when I'll super care. But right now, I just don't care.
Looks like we're getting a rain delay.
Oh,
Of
great!
course, with the time
More time.
run up.
Oh, look at how wet Luke Little looks. By the way,
Yes,
Luke
no.
Little, not Little.
So
No,
I
he
had
is
no
not.
idea.
He is not.
I had no idea that it was raining until I just looked at my screen. I'm like, damn, they still got these jersey problems in the Major League Baseball.
Well,
which-
there's the thing. It could be half and half, quite honestly. Did you see the guy in the? Was it the Dodgers a couple nights ago? Like the guy, like he was just soaked, and it went and, like his pants were gray, but his shirt was dark gray. Like it was. They're just a mess. Can't wait for next year. Okay, so we're not concerned about.
Yeah. Honestly, I think my concern meter will probably tick up next Tuesday when rookies report and there isn't a new deal. Or there may not be a new deal, but right now, no, I'm not too worried.
I'm not worried about it either.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
sorry.
here's the thing: the Bears. Look at everything the Bears have done this offseason to accommodate the arrival of Caleb Williams. It wouldn't make sense for them now to stop short of whatever. If say there is a hang up over language, over bonuses down the line, say there is some type of hang up like that, it wouldn't really make sense for the Bears to put their flag in the ground at this moment and be like, nope, that's what we don't do after everything they've done. And it circles back to, if you think Caleb is the guy, then most of the language in the contract won't matter.
Right. Yeah. We'll get there. I'm not worried about it.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Two things. I'm going to give Jordan the Bulls and I'm going to give Alex the Blackhawks. Two organizations going in two very different directions.
It should be fun.
Jordan, are the
Sorry, Jordan.
I would super I would super like the Bulls to commit to the full tank for 2024-2025.
Same. And I think
Alex, you could chime in too, but
we saw on Twitter last night why they should, because Cooper Flag is very, very near the top of the list of the 2025 NBA draft class. And yeah, he might not be like the top of the top when he comes in the NBA, but he would be the best player that the Bulls have seen since Derrick Rose.
Yeah.
But here's the issue is the Bulls kind of waited so long to commit to this tank or reset or rebuild or whatever AK is going to tell us once he meets with reporters again, because they're kind of in a bad position when it comes to moving Zach, because the league's like, ooh, with that contract, I'm not feeling it. Which I kind of feel bad for Zach to the extent that he's not as bad as he's getting talked about. He's actually a pretty efficient scorer. The issue is the contract and just how the Bulls had fumbled.
And how bad the Bulls have made him look.
Right.
Like this isn't his fault.
Right.
You know?
So maybe I think what I've heard today is they're trying to use one of the second round picks they got in the DeMar sign and trade, attach that to a Levine trade. But honestly, it sounds wishful thinking. But I do like that the Bulls are committed to rebuilding, tanking. I just hate that it's coming 12, 16 months after when they should have started.
Honestly, it should have been like 16, 18 months. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
They should have started.
We'd be in
so
so much better shape. We'd be in so much better shape if ownership allowed us to get picks for Caruso and picks for Andre Drummond. We could have gotten picks for Andre Drummond, and now we lost him for nothing.
Yeah, and shout out to DeMar, because DeMar was everything we could have hoped for, and like it
and more.
I just have to apologize to him because he was never given a chance to be the superstar that he is. And you know what? Sacramento, that's a real good basketball team out there right now. So
The West is gonna be a
Great
fun
fit for 'em.
conference to watch.
Oh yeah. The West is gonna. I think this year, like the way that the West is shaping up with everybody kind of moving around and stuff, the West is gonna be keeping me up at late at night sometimes
There's gonna be some fun
watching
games.
those
Yeah, there's
games.
gonna be some
So
fun games. Yeah.
yeah, so I'm kind of looking forward to next NBA season. I really tried this year, but the Bulls just kind of like took all the wind out of my sails. But I think next year I really am going to try because some of these storylines in the NBA are pretty majestic. So
Oh yeah.
okay. Speaking of tanks and to tank or not to tank, a tank that worked absolutely perfectly at the United Center was the Chicago Blackhawks. And now, after a thunderous free agency period, the Blackhawks are kind of back, but maybe not super back, but definitely way more back than they were. Right?
Yeah, I mean, so you're taking a step here. You're taking an advancement. And I think that it's important for us to remember that it's still probably not going to be a playoff season for the Blackhawks coming up, keeping in mind that their own division just alone has got a lot of real good teams.
Oh my
Nashville
God, yeah.
is loading up. The Wild look like they can be pretty good. And then look at the, within the West in your division still is Colorado. They're pretty good. Outside of your division in the West, you got Vegas. They're, a contender every year. Look at Dallas, Vancouver, Dallas. I mean, it's, and the Blackhawks got some really nice players. Tyler Patuzzi, he can score and he can rough you up a little bit. And then you look at guys they brought in, like just to kind of anchor things down with Alec Martinez, the guy that broke our hearts in 2014. 10 years later comes the Blackhawks to be
that's just gonna be
presence.
that's just gonna be weird.
I know. It really is.
It's just gonna be weird.
Every time he takes a shot from the point, I'm gonna
be
just
like,
throw up, even though he's in I'm like, please, Nicoletti, don't be in front of Corey Crawford and let it deflect in. But I mean, TJ Brody, you brought him in, and then Teuvo Teravainen, the guy who was kind of like the Michael Bush to the Dodgers back in 2015 when the Blackhawks were still winning Stanley Cups. There was talent there, young talent. He just didn't really have a spot on a veteran team that was 100% focused on winning a cup and not necessarily, developing guys where now it's like, okay, he got his chance to really develop as an NHL player in Carolina. He could score 20 plus goals, put up 40, 50 points. And now he comes back to the Blackhawks, a more polished asset and ready to take on a bigger role than what he had before. And then, Pat Maroon, you brought him in to be just another veteran. You got a Nick Foligno in there. You bring in Pat Maroon, and that kind of helps that locker room a little bit. And then keep this in mind too, that with these additions, you're hoping to get a healthy Taylor Hall back as well, because he got hurt very early in the season last year. So if you have a healthy Taylor Hall putting up 40 points, 20 goals, 20 assists, and a healthy Andres Athanasiou putting up 18, 20 goals and 20 assists, and then you got Bertuzzi, Kurashev, so you're getting back to respectability. You have more established veteran talent on your team. Some are on the older side on the defense, but you're really looking for anchors for the time being. And really what they are is an anchor for the season, but really placeholders for the long run. And that's just kind of how these rebuilds go with some of these defensive positions as you try to develop in the AHL. Now we got Artie Party, our first draft pick, signing that deal. He's coming to the Blackhawks. He's going to be a pro hockey player, going to start in Rockford most likely, but he's going to be a pro hockey player. He's not going back to college. He's now officially property of the Chicago Blackhawks. And Kyle Davidson has made it very, very clear that he wants to go out there and develop him and get him to the NHL as quick as possible. He's not messing around. He's not overshooting is Kyle Davidson, but he's not messing around. He's no more tanking, no more bottoming out. We're ready to take a step forward. We're ready to keep developing. We're ready to keep establishing a new culture. We're ready to keep growing our young superstar in Connor Bedard. We are moving forward. We're not going to jog in place. We're not going to hold out for a bit. We're moving forward. And the path to contention in the NHL, it can be very long when you're rebuilding from the ground up. It's a long journey, but you're going down the right path, and that is a good thing to see. It really is.
Yeah, and then the goalie, the Larnett Bourgeois. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh.
that was one of my
Thank you for
favorite
bringing that up.
signings. Yeah, that was one of my favorite
Yes.
signings because like he is a guy that Maristic, I mean, great goalie, but Brossois, am I still saying that right? Brossois is
think
going
so.
to like I think he's a guy that like once we get to like December, January, he could be the starting goalie because
You could.
he's
You
got
could.
the like he's a veteran, he's good. He was on Vancouver, he was on the Jets last year. Jets okay of a team, you know. So the thing that has me excited is that I don't think the Blackhawks, they may have a winning record this year. I'm not expecting a winning record by any means, but these games that we're watching, they're not going to be 6-0, 8-2 blowouts anymore. We're actually going to have a hockey game that like the Hawks are going to be in it for a lot longer than they were supposed to be. So
You'll actually be
maybe
able to score some goals.
yes, exactly. And there's a kid by the name of Connor Bedard is still on this team. So let's not forget
But he
that.
won't be the only one that garners any attention on the ice from the opposition. I
Correct,
mean, when
yeah.
you got Tyler
Yeah.
Bertuzzi out there now and Teuvo Teravainen,
And when Artie Party
and
gets
some of
here,
those other guys.
try and stop me.
Uh-huh.
Try and stop me. Like, I got a Connor Bedard red jersey. I'm thinking Artie Party white jersey. I'm just saying.
Might be next.
Okay, I like
Um,
that. I like that very
yeah.
much.
Yeah, so we'll see. And he's a Michigan State guy. Go green.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay. Real quick before we leave, I was on the Pinwheels and Ivy pregame show today, and I talked with my friend Mitch about NASCAR. So I'm not going to bore you guys with NASCAR right now, but you should go back and listen to that because NASCAR
Gotcha.
this weekend was so incredible. I had so much fun, but I know you guys aren't into that.
I could
so
tell
I'm
you
not
had
going to
fun.
say anything.
It looked
Oh
like
my
a
God, it
good
was the
time.
best.
Yeah, the singing toilet looks like a good time.
Yeah, and they're gonna do it at least one more time next year. So if you're being all pissy about it, deal with it. But if you're open to trying new things, you should definitely try it out next weekend because it is just an electric time. But Jordan, we need to end here. We need to talk about the WWE.
Oh, we're feasting right now. We are feasting.
It's so
mean,
great. It's so
you
great.
have, you really have like three main storylines that are kind of carrying WWE, but each of the three storylines are so good that you have to tune into Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown.
Every single week.
On Raw, we have everything going on with the Wyatt Six, Pat McAfee, Chad Gable. Which it's so funny because every time there is a Wyatt Six like segment, Tommy and I are like texting each other like, "Here it goes," and like the jump scare usually gets us most of the time.
Not this
Unless
week.
I was about to say, unless our wives are up and it's still light out, then we usually don't get scared. But then, otherwise, we definitely do. But then you have everything going on with CM Punk, Seth Rollins, and Drew McIntyre, which is phenomenal because between the three of them, there is real life hatred, at least between Punk and Rollins. So when we see that,
1000%.
when we see that come, and we're seeing why WWE is a better place for Punk than AEW was, because despite the fact that there is legitimate beef between Seth Rollins and CM Punk, they're able to make gold together whenever they are in the ring together with
Definitely.
a microphone.
Yeah.
And on SmackDown, we have the whole thing with the Bloodline 2.0. The segment with Paul Heyman from a couple weeks ago was brilliant acting.
So good.
I heard that Heyman actually didn't sleep the night before to give off his disheveled look, and
to make it look like oh my God. He's
for
so
as
good.
much of a pop that Rhea Ripley got at the end of Monday Night Raw,
Yeah.
let me say that pop when Roman comes back is going to be insane.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Like-
when Roman comes back, it's gonna be sick.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Whether it's
Yeah.
the SmackDown before SummerSlam or my guess it's probably going to be after the Cody solo match at SummerSlam
I think it
I
comes
want-
I think it comes at the match.
I think he comes at the match too. And I don't want to like dive too much into the weeds. We're not really a wrestling podcast. But
could be.
it's awesome. Yeah, we could be. It does seem like they are setting up
Don't look at
Solo
me.
versus Roman, right?
Alex,
It does seem-
we gotta get you watching this because
It does seem like they're
Oh.
setting up Solo versus Roman right away, which would be so much fun. But no, yeah, it's a great time to be a wrestling fan.
Alex,
next
this
year
is like soap operas. Like you got like or
It
like
really
a
is
or
soap-
like
yeah.
a reality TV show. Like you just gotta pick it up and roll with it.
I think Triple H.
I just hear
said it-
words.
Yeah, I think Triple H said it best. He's like, it's a reality show about a sport, and it's just it's so.
You know what
compelling.
might help, Alex? You need to go on YouTube, go to the WWE page, watch the documentary that they just put out. It's like 45 minutes long or something like that. It
Yeah.
tells exactly what happened at this last WrestleMania, how
Oh.
they had a plan,
Wow.
and because the fans like went bonkers because they hated it so much, they changed the plan in real time. It's
Yeah, and it worked. Yeah.
Oh, it
I
worked,
No,
yeah.
it was improv.
It was
Is
one of
what
the-
you're saying.
well, yes, yeah.
And what was so brilliant about that is we got one of the best heel characters in the final boss.
Oh my
Rock,
god, from the
which
Rock,
was-
yeah. Oh my god.
Which makes me excited because WWE is moving to Netflix next year, which means all the nonsense of Fox either going to a black screen or muting the cameras.
Censorship, yeah.
I know. It's all going to be gone, and I can't wait because I do hope we get Final Boss Rock one more time. But to kind of end here, 2025, guys, the 12-month retirement tour of John Cena.
We got to get to a show.
That I
We gotta
do
see him
know
one more
about.
time.
It's that one is
Yeah.
hard to miss because John Cena's is a celebrity just everywhere.
Yeah.
He's in movies. He does this, and I mean, it was huge news. Like every tweet that was tweeting about, like
Yeah.
every news outlet, ABC, Fox, CNN, everything, everyone that was tweeting about it, you saw the tweets just getting a ton of engagement with the John Cena news
Yeah.
and tweeting the
I'm not
video.
gonna
So
lie.
it was hard to miss.
He came out and right away, like before announcing like he's doing a full year run next year, he's like, I'm here to announce my retirement. I almost started crying. I was like, oh
Yeah,
no,
I was
John.
like, wait, no, not yet.
Yeah,
No.
no.
I had
was like,
it,
no.
so I didn't watch it live because I was still coming back from NASCAR, but I saw it on social media. I was like, no, absolutely
Yes,
not.
yes.
I refuse to live in a world where John Cena actually legitimately retires. But it does sound
Exactly.
like when he's done with in the ring stuff, it does sound like he's going to stick around for a while. So
Which
we
is
have
good,
that.
yeah.
We have
Mhm.
that to look forward
Yeah.
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Alex, we're going to get you on this bandwagon sooner or later. You're just going to have to deal with it.
I challenge you to try.
Well, I'm trying. Well,
Okay.
maybe we'll kidnap him and then take him to
Oh,
a
there you
show.
go. Oh, wide six action.
Yeah, but we're
So
not
I'm going to
kill you.
be suddenly in
Yeah.
a sack, and then I'm going to be squirming around. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to be in the Alcina, and there's wild fans around me. And okay, all right.
I don't think you know how this works, quite honestly.
It'll be fun.
It'll be fine. You'll be fine. All
I
right,
didn't
boys
say
and
I
girls.
wouldn't like it.
Yikes. All right, boys and girls. Thank you for
On that
indulging in this for a while.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys. We're gonna do it again next week. I'm wide open next week, so we're definitely not
Same.
missing next week's show unless something tragic or weird happens. But
Right.
I will be here. The three of us will be
Nothing
here.
but
Thank
time.
you, everybody, for
Yep.
watching and listening and hanging out with us. Next week, hop in the chat. Say words
Let's
to
do
us. I may open it up to let people roast me. Let's see.
Let's do it.
We'll see how it happens.
Whatever gets more engagement.
Yeah. All right, people. Talk to you later.